This one is for all of my trans male homies out there, okay? Because we don't talk about trans dudes enough. You know why? Because I'm misinterest. But you already knew that.
Social experiment that brings humans with opposing beliefs together.
Social.
These discussions may contain viewpoints that are the result of misinformation. Remember to seek out experts and to be critical of your own biases while forming an opinion. Please.
Wow, right off the bat, okay. Dude, we should do this we should have this disclaimer for literally all political content produced by anyone, anywhere. That's good, I like that.
So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today.
But do you see the state of our world today? It's not perfect, and it's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Masculinity is disappearing in America.
I think that masculinity is disappearing. I think that it's a concerted effort to emasculate men. I think that some people feel threatened by masculinity and the typical way that men carry themselves, leading families and different things like that. So I think that.
Wait, do I know this guy? Wait, is this Tatum? Oh, this is Tatum, yeah. This guy's a moron.
There's an effort to mitigate strong men in America.
There's a few different ways to think about masculinity, but just looking at kind of the definition of the term 50 years ago, you had people like John Wayne, you had Martin Luther King, you had Sean Connery. You think of like masculine features as in beards, hairy chest, big muscles, think stoic, being brave, being
like me,
rugged, being a provider. Today you have people like Harry Styles and Timothy Chalamet. You have people that are completely contrary to what.
Okay, can I just say, by the way, I only learned that Harry Styles was a part of One Direction like 3 days ago because of a Quentin Reviews video, okay? I had no idea. I just assumed that Harry Styles was some like actor or like model or something who was doing gender-bendy stuff and got popular for it. I had no idea. I think that might have actually been the first time I'd ever seen a picture of the One Direction group. I'm almost kind of proud of myself for not knowing for so long.
What we were looking at back then, and those values of those masculine characteristics are completely devalued.
I do believe that masculinity is going downhill, especially if you look at like the testosterone levels. Now the testosterone levels for guys is going down compared to generations before us. So yeah, I agree. Hi, I'm Gilbert. I'm 24 years old and I'm a conservative man. With my beliefs and having a trans man as my friend, we don't really talk about politics. Someone being trans doesn't make me like them any less of a person.
Well, that's
as far
nice.
as pronouns, when referring to my friend, I don't really use the pronouns that my friend would want. I just say my friend or I say their name, just because I feel like I'm giving into the narrative that men can be women and women can be men if I use the pronouns that they want.
Okay, wait. Can we talk for a second about how bitch behavior it is to not use your friend's correct pronouns because it would make you feel like you're giving into the narrative? Like, how weak are you? Like, oh, sorry, my political narrative doesn't let me. Like, holy shit. Like, flip the script and imagine, like, some, like, quivering-kneed, like, beta soy cuck liberal white boy saying how he can't use the terms Latino or Latina to refer to his Latin friends and instead uses Latine, you know? Like, oh, sorry, I feel like I'd be giving into the gendered language narrative. Like, we would tear into that person, right? Like, that's what I'm listening to right now. My axe is too short. Okay, we got him.
I do see that masculinity is under attack completely, but my definition of masculinity, like you said, has a lot to do with the traits that are associated with it. As a gay man, I mean, of all of us, I'm not the most masculine man, but I do think that the good aspects of masculinity are definitely under attack, but I don't think that it's disappearing, it's just being channeled in different ways.
Oh, this person is super closeted.
Because a lot of the traits can also be embodied in women and femininity. So when we look at masculinity, I think that we have to also look at what is the actual definition
Oh, you just said he's
of femininity
gay?
and masculinity?
Okay, never
and if we're defining masculinity by being stoic or muscles or body parts, then is it really masculinity?
A lot of times when you guys spoke about masculinity, you associate it with men being manly, but I think more women are embracing their masculinity. Masculinity is still there. I mean, just other genders are using it. Being courageous, being powerful, more women are standing in their power, which is again associated masculine, but it's not specific to just men. Women are no longer submissive, they're dominant. Women.
I actually think that's a good point. If you want to hear people talk about like, well, okay, what parts of masculinity are fading away? And the answers they have are always like the most superficial, trivial elements. Like, people aren't wearing suits anymore. People aren't super domineering, you know. But if you ask like, okay, well, what are the important parts of being a man? Like being courageous, being, you know, strong, being confident. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's still out here, you know? That's actually a really good argument. I've never thought of that before. When they say masculinity is fading, point out how trivial their perspective of masculinity is, by pointing out that the only things that are actually fading away are superficial aesthetic elements. Good point.
And don't need men, and I think that most of America is realizing that anyone can be powerful on their own.
I believe that the masculine traits are inherently in men, and men have to take a position. You made a really good point by saying women are now becoming more masculine. They feel as if they don't need men, which I think is
Wait,
the
who said
problem
that?
here. I think that the way we've been designed by God, in my opinion, is that men are to lead, men are to be strong, men are to be brave. Men have to take their rightful position. The way our country has been structured to this point has been because of strong men who have taken a stand, who have fought wars. Now I feel like it's...
Remember, guys, 100% of men who talk like this are beta soy cucks, okay? There is nothing weaker and more pathetic than saying that you need the women in your life to be weak and submissive. I'm sorry. Like, if it's a kink thing, fine, whatever. I'm not kink shaming, okay? But if you're like, God made it so that you have to be lesser than me, and I'm uncomfortable that you're asserting yourself, like, that is such beta cuck shit. Such beta cuck shit. Beta, 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 beta cuck, loser, beta.
It's getting so lopsided that our families are degrading. People don't know where they're at in this country.
Now in 2022, masculinity...
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing, and I know I'm pausing a lot here, but isn't it interesting that he would say that our families are degrading when I've debated this guy and he's argued that, like, black men aren't standing up for their families by sticking with their loved ones? I'm sorry. Is the problem with the black family that black men aren't masculine enough? Because I was under the impression that by basically any standard of racial judgment, black men are considered to be the archetypes of male masculinity, right? So... is it so like if the families are falling apart, like what does that have to do with masculinity? Like it just seems like it's which way you want, like whatever's most convenient.
Is being redefined. And I think what happens is people get upset when things start to change. No, I think that nobody ever wants to take that away from men. I think that what we want to do in the world now is start to understand what is masculinity. And it's always been really associated with this very machismo space. And now there's different kinds of men in the world. There's not just biological men. There's also trans men or people who want to be masculine. So I think what's happening now is people are pushing against change, because change is scary and people don't understand. And so I think men, biological men, feel under attack, when I think that's not what's happening here.
The point that you made is 100% correct. There are different phases and people are experiencing in different ways. The feminist movement is, I think they are attacking masculinity within men. I don't want a man to open the door for me. I don't need a man in my life. I can do all of these different things. What they're doing is attacking men, and that's like what's causing the problem.
What part of the feminist group feels like it's attacking? Because I know that most feminism is like...
Buck Angel is the perfect example of the difference between real masculinity and aesthetic masculinity, because the dude looks macho as fuck, and he's the biggest bitch pick-me in the universe. If you go to Buck Angel's, like, Twitter page, it is just chock fucking full of, like, I'm not one of the bad transes, I'm one of the good ones. You can call me whatever you want. Didn't he literally tweet at one point he didn't mind it if people call him, like, she, her, or whatever, like, a year ago? But now, like, trans people were mockingly calling him her on Twitter because he was, like, he's such a pick-me, and all of a sudden he has an issue with it. Like, in the past, he said something like, I don't care, you know, I'm a human, use human language with me. But then when people actually, like, call him out in it, he actually suddenly does care. I think I remember that. Fuck. Sorry, we're never gonna get through this video at this rate.
Like wanting equal pay or...
Well, you just said that women not needing men is somehow empowering. You know, having a man is somehow less empowering, or being an individual is somehow less
But that's how
empowering.
women feel.
Right.
Women actually are saying that because that's how they feel. It's as
But
if,
that's not how every woman feels.
but no one's
that's just
saying
an
every woman.
assumption
They're only
of how
women speak for themselves. So
Right.
all of you are going to have different opinions as biological men.
Absolutely.
Women all have different opinions. Oh, you see a very specific group of women saying this.
Let me you did just say that's how women feel. So are you speaking on behalf of all women?
No, I'm not. Let me take that back. So, the women who are saying that feel that way.
Why do you feel that women in general feel disempowered?
No, I don't think in general. No. That's a generalized statement. You can't say that. I said
you're
the
the one
women. No, I
who
did
said
not. I
women
said the
feel
women who
disempowered.
say that.
You associated somehow women are now
Clusterfuck
embracing
from the
masculinity,
get-go.
which means that they are now more empowered because they don't need
They don't
a man.
need a man,
Or
right.
if they're
Men feel empowered when women need
But
them.
I don't think that women...
Okay, again, like, this is some weak bitch shit, okay? I don't want a woman who needs me. I want a woman who wants me. Like, if you really want women to need you, just roll the clock back 50 years and make it so women can't open their own bank accounts. Like, wow, congratulations. You truly are... You're such a big man. Wow, you took advantage of their economic lack of mobility, and now they need you. Wow, phenomenal. They need you the way a child needs a parent. Is that what you want, you fucking pedophile? Like, seriously, it's so weird. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm some kind of... maybe this is some sort of crazy new age idea, but if I have a partner, I want it to be because they love me and want to be with me. Does that make sense? Does that follow? Oh, fuck, I'm not even drinking the flasks. I'm drinking the poison. Yeah, like, I wouldn't want a romantic partner where I feel like I have no idea if they genuinely like me or if it's just, like, dependency. Like, that's very weird. That sounds so unpleasant. I don't know. Perish.
Women's empowerment comes from having a man or not having a man. So why is it always associated that, you know, a woman's now empowered because she doesn't need a man? A woman has always been empowered. Women have never been...
But they've never felt that.
That's not true.
I mean, if we go back to the 1920s, if you're going to do that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about society right now.
Right now, you actually think women are empowered right now?
Absolutely, women are empowered.
Who's the vice president? And how long did it take for her to become a vice president?
What do we mean
There
by
is a right and wrong way
True,
to
Merrick.
be a man.
True, Merrick. The same people who want women to be dependent on them are also the same people, the same guys who say, like, women only like men for their resources. It's such a fucking circular argument there. Like, yeah, women should be biologically dependent on the resources of the male. And then they, like, get mad that women don't seem to actually love them. Like, damn, you know? At least when women in relationships with me don't actually love me, it's because the dick's that good, okay? At least it's not because of my fucking bank account, alright? Well, not that I had any money to my name before this job.
Take this second to think about it.
Hey.
I think that when I originally heard the question being asked,
Yeah, they don't like women, they
I
like
didn't
power
agree
over
with
women.
it, but men are not abusive individuals. Men are not to be cowards. Men are to lead their families. And men who do not display that, I don't believe that they are men, in my opinion. And all of the qualities that I see in my father is what I believe a man should be.
Wait, I thought being a man was biological. Wait, hold on. You can't be a man if you don't lead your family and don't have, like, honor or whatever? Wait, hold on. I thought we were all strict. Ah, yes, the conservative says, lying. My view of gender is exclusively determined by chromosomes. They say dishonestly while winking.
All of those characteristics are what make a man, and when I see a man be a coward in the truth, in just speaking the truth, or sticking up for what's right, especially today in America with everything going on, I'm like, those are not men. My name is Clarkson.
Yeah,
I'm 24 years
like,
old,
okay.
And I'm a conservative man. My biggest question for the other side.
Wait, aren't
really
you
is, are
gay?
you
Wouldn't they
happy?
think you're not a
Anybody
man?
that wants to fundamentally change society and change gender roles, to me,
I just think he
that's
looks
not
like a man
happiness.
baby.
And if we want to fight for acceptance, we need to start with acceptance,
It's
which
very
is accepting
uncanny
society
valley,
for
very
what it
Ken
is.
doll.
At the end of the day, we're all men, and I don't believe there's any wrong way to be a man. We're just redefining what it means to be a man.
But there are things that naturally come to men. So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today. So just like aimlessly throwing out, oh, well, we're just redefining what it is to be a man.
Good.
That's not just like a light subject that we should be talking about.
But why do you think it has to stay the same? Why do we need to have the same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years?
Do you not see the state
It's not the same thing. It's just, it's
said.
keeping the same qualities.
But do you see the state of our world today?
Wait,
It's
this
not
dude's
perfect.
gay. Is he seriously
going to
make that argument?
Like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
Doug, where are you gonna be a gay guy going like, you can't just willy-nilly change like long-standing social expectations? What the fuck? Dude, every conservative minority member, every like conservative who's a member of a minority group lives with crippling cognitive dissonance. Oh wait, he said he was gay? Is this one of those conversion camp success story guys? Did he say that? No, he still is gay? Yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't hear him say that he was, like, ex-gay or whatever. He does look like he would have gone to a conversion camp.
So, we're talking about redesigning what it means to be a man. So, what do you want to bring to traditional men?
I think it's embracing that you can be vulnerable. I think that a lot of men want to portray strength, strength, strength. But men are people, and I know that men have feelings.
Being a man and masculinity, those are two different things. And I believe that we can redefine whatever that means to anybody by including other types of men or other types of masculinity. I myself am a father, I have a child. Some people would disagree with me being a father because I am transgender. But that being said, I present to the world as male, my child sees me as a man.
There's proper ways to be vulnerable, right? You don't have to break down in front of your family and cry. It's okay to suffer silence as well. Strong men.
What? You don't have to break down in front of your family and cry. You can suffer in silence as well. Okay. Or you could not. What? You can show vulnerability in different ways. Just silently bottle it up inside and kill yourselves, leaving your family with nothing except for ruined expectations. Like, yes. There we go. Yes. The death of a salesman, the prescriptively best archetype of masculinity. Let's go. Like, why? Weird. Very weird. Conservatives are not all right, man.
And I believe exude the qualities that you guys are referring to. I think the problem is overcorrection, right? Some people believe that men need to cry and lay on the ground and be feminine like women. My name is Brandon. I'm 34
lay
years
on the
old,
ground.
and I'm a conservative man. I had a lot of curiosities about what it's like
get
to
off the
be
ground.
a
You look
person
like a
who
woman.
believes that they're a trans man. You know, I feel like God has created all of us very uniquely, and although I have beliefs and I follow the Bible to the T, I still want to know from other people what their experiences are. Doesn't mean I have to agree, but I really want to know what other people are feeling from the person who's experiencing it real time.
I have male privilege.
Yeah, of course the conservative, yeah.
Oh,
Ultimate conservative hypocrisy, by the way, is believing like, yeah, being a man means you're strong. It means you take care of everyone. It means you're dependable. It means that you have the power. And then like, hey, so does that give you like privilege over others? And they say no. You know, I think women should be weak and dependent on men. Oh, so do you think men have privilege then? No. What? No? Why would you? What? No? What?
I've lived both lives, and I can tell you firsthand that it does exist. I am taken much more seriously in my career since I transitioned as a man. Prior to transitioning, I would work just as hard, if not harder, for the same position and not be considered. The minute that I transition, I am immediately taken more seriously. I can give you an example. Obviously, with COVID, there's like the mask mandate, right? So I have to tell customers all the time.
Not for a while. What? Oh. Do you want me to turn my camera off? Okay. Just tell me when.
It needs to be up your nose, right? I do that all day. My manager, who's above me, who is a woman, will have to go to them and tell them they give her a fight. But the minute I just look in their direction, it's up. It doesn't seem like a privilege, but it is, because now my manager has to work 3 times harder for something that's so simple.
I think the word privilege is the thing that turns a lot of people off with this conversation. But that being said, again, myself living my life as a female, pretty much half my life, and then now half my life as a man, there is no way I could not be honest about the fact that my life has changed drastically. Also being a white man, that's also a conversation a lot of people don't want to have. But I have privilege of being white and privilege also of being a man now. I can walk into any room and command that room in a heartbeat because people just do that with men. And I think the thing is that biological men are born into that space, so they'll never ever see it. Why do we now, as women who have become men, get to have this thing? It's 100% because we are men. We look like men. Nobody would ever know. No one would ever know that we used to be women. So it's actually a real lived experience.
Buck sounds fine when he's not doing, like, pick-me shit, you know? Wait, how long are you gonna be back there? Okay, I just don't know if I should turn my cam on or just be lazy and leave it off. Okay. When he's not doing the pick-me shit, like, Buck mostly sounds fine, you know? It's, like, pretty clearly some edge issues that he insists on having bad takes on, you know? I have a feeling this video is going to get spicy because it's double the average length of a Jubilee Change My Mind video, you know? Like, I feel like at some point during this...
So, I agree with a lot of what you all are saying as far as, like, transitioning. But as a black man, privilege looks way different for me, because if I'm walking down the street, then I'm seen as a threat by police, by women, by anybody else. Being seen as a man is where my privilege stops and where everything else begins. So I don't see it as privilege.
Okay,
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because it discounts the fact that black men have a lot of privilege over black women. However, that's probably the best possible argument he could have made coming back here, you know? After not agreeing with the privilege bit, like, that's probably the best possible thing he could have come out here with. So.
Got a lot to say about this topic here. First of all, I mean, we have to be transparent and honest with each other. You know, I think that not everybody on this side presents 100% like a man. Like, if I saw you in the streets, I wouldn't think you were a man. You know, men have it really hard in this world, and they've always had it hard in this world. The wars have been fought by men. They've died in the hundreds of thousands. Men commit suicide more. Men work more the dangerous jobs. You know, if somebody...
Men commit suicide more. Hey, guys, it's okay to bottle up your feelings and not talk about how you feel to your family. I wonder if there's a relationship between... Wonder if there's a relationship between these factors. Yeah, wouldn't that mean it's manly to kill yourself? Yeah, Tatum, aren't they just, like, expressing their manhood? Like, what?
Everybody broke in this place right now. Who are they going to expect to defend everybody in here is going to be the men. If your family fails, they're not looking at your wife.
I'm sorry. Hold on. If your fucking definition of manhood is being defined by your cringy high school era fantasies of some fucking terrorists breaking into the building and you using kung fu to disable... What? The people who will defend you are the security guards they no doubt have there. Who's going to attack you? What are you talking about? And we live in the modern world. Anyone who's going to defend anyone is the person holding a gun. None of you are holding guns right now. What are you talking about? What? Can you imagine if I was having this conversation with somebody? They're like, well, what do you think is a man? I'm like, well, what do you think a man is? If someone broke into this room right now, like, who do you think would disable them with kung fu? Like, Jesus Christ.
They're not. They're looking at the man. You know, I just want people to understand it. There's some advantages that men have, and then also men do struggle in custody and all kinds of different things.
100%. I 100% agree with you as a man now, right? But I think my perception of it is different than yours because you were born male, you were raised male, you have a whole other space in that, and I totally respect your opinion on that, and I believe that that is a true lived experience as a born man.
Yeah, and let me add with the black man because we have a total different reality.
I'm anti-lived experience.
I don't, in no way, form, or fashion do I go into a room and I feel like I'm less than. I think I command presence when I go into a room because the way I'm dressed, and I'm tall. I go in the streets. I've never had a person cross the street. I've never been attacked by a police officer. I was a police officer. You know, I've been pulled over probably 3 times in my entire life.
I mean, my biggest question with this and why I don't necessarily agree with it.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is he suggesting that the way he talks and dresses is why police don't profile him? and not the fact that he's a former cop, maybe? I don't know if it's like he was in a small town and they could like know based on the car, like they recognize you. It's just like, yes, you see, I've never been profiled because the cops know I'm articulate through the driver's side window. Like, I have no idea. I don't, it's such a silly argument. I have no idea how that's supposed to track. You can smell a cop when you've been a cop, true.
Because when it comes to privilege, there's not really a way to quantify it. It's very subjective. So like your version of male privilege and your version of male privilege are very different.
So it's hard to see the other side because you've never lived it.
Yeah.
The difference between you and us is we see it because we've lived it. You have not. So it's easy to speak and be like, well, it doesn't exist. Well, how would you know?
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I think everybody has certain privileges, but what I think the question here is what defines male privilege over women? Because women have privileges too. Right. So is there a graph that you guys are calculating to make men have more than women, or what?
The privilege is not acknowledging what you have that comes so easy.
So do you think that your fear, because you live both sides, do you think your fear is something that you have in your mind, or you think it's a reality? Because no, let me say this: you never really changed as a person. You're the same person that you were. So you have the same physical capabilities that you did when you were a woman.
No.
What?
No, my strength is entirely different after.
Wait, what? Dude, trans dudes go through legal doping regimens. What? First of all, privilege isn't about what you can do for the most part. It's about how society perceives you. So even if trans men were in every way, shape, and form identical, like biologically the same as cis women, which, I mean, they're not. Like, if they take hormones, that's totally not the case. But even if that was the case, you can still have differences in the privilege you experience because most of it, comes down to how people treat you. What I told you about my hours. Oh yeah, I was talking with Tempest the other day, my editor, a trans guy, who was saying that basically he's on T and he's getting like too bulky for his own good. Like he was getting stretch marks on his armpits because his arms are fucking swelling up with muscle. With Tempest, as I understand, minimal effort, because you're just fucking roiding right now. Like you're just roiding the fuck up. Right? Fucking Giga Chad. It is a doping. You will get disqualified from athletic events. You've gained about 30 pounds of muscle. Tempest, that is fucking ridiculous. 30 pounds of muscle over, what, a year and a half? Without, like, a super dedicated exercise regimen? Without even, like, trying to gain muscle? Jesus Christ. That's all the muscle I have. I got a dope. Absolutely. Oh. Guy's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill. These perfume dudes kick ass.
What percentage would you say?
More than 100%.
Okay,
I weighed like 100 pounds.
You're still not probably as strong as me.
But it's not about strength. It's that
women. Yeah, you're huge. Wait, what? Wait, so you can't be? Wait, so. There can't be any difference in physicality unless the difference means that you get to match the strength of a 6'4" fucking former police officer? He's so insecure. Yeah, okay, listen, alright? We've been dealing with a lot of insecurity from weirdos online lately, and I'm getting those vibes from this guy too, okay? Any guy like, okay, well you're not as strong as me though, right? Like, I'm a real man. Like, okay. Isn't one of the precepts of confidence and strength, like, let your strength talk for you? Like, obviously, Tatum's probably the strongest dude here. Look at him. Look at him! He's huge! Obviously, but, like, okay.
Women are targeted. Men are not targeted. I mean, maybe sometimes. I'm not saying it's never going to happen.
They're targeted by other men.
Right. But women are targeted by other men. I think women have less of a safe space.
I disagree. Men don't have a safe space. If you go to certain
But I'm talking
cities,
about
they get murdered by other men.
Okay, but I'm not talking about certain
Wait, what does that have to do with a safe space?
Yeah,
what?
I think that's a blanket statement.
Have you been attacked as a woman?
I have been I've been raped, I've been attacked, I can go on and on and on. I was homeless, living in the streets, raped all the time. It happens. It's a real thing. Yeah. I didn't see the...
Hey, hot tip for transphobes doing a debate. Don't ever ask anyone born AFAB whether they've experienced sexual violence, okay? That is almost always a losing gamble. That is a very bad statistical fucking argument to get down. Okay, well, I have a point. Any of you, have you, trans men, have you ever experienced sexual violence? Like, damn. A risky game, to be sure.
Guys on the street getting raped, but
men do get raped.
100%.
Oh, come on.
Do you get catcalled down the street? Like,
I mean, women say things to me. When
Holy shit.
You feel empowered though, right?
No, I don't feel empowered. I feel that that's disgusting.
But do you feel scared? Do you feel threatened?
Jesus Christ, dude. Well, like, you've never experienced sexual violence, have you? Oh, you have? Oh, well, like, men get raped too? Yeah, they do. But, like, not as much, clearly. Obviously. No, generally speaking, men do not walk down the street fearing sexual violence from people. Is it a thing that can happen? Yes. Is it horrible when it does? Yes. Is it the same? Does it happen as often as to women? No. Like, come on. Jesus Christ. Huh?
When a woman catcalls you?
No, I don't.
Okay, go.
But I don't feel threatened if a man try to challenge.
Because you have that male privilege.
Right. As a woman,
What if a man was whistling at you when you were walking down the street?
I've had it happen to me. I had gay men whistle to me.
Then
but
how does that make you feel?
I don't care.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you don't touch me.
Wait! He just said he thinks it's disgusting when people make comments at him while he's walking down the street, but now he's like, I don't care? This fucking liar, dude. Holy shit. Literally, like, sentence by sentence. When he wants to come off like a strong, manly man, he has to be like, oh yeah, I don't care. But then when he wants to, like, equivocate and lie and cry bully over, like, women's experiences, he has to be like, actually, no, I am often subjected to sexualized targeting, and it does disgust me. Like, holy shit. What a fucking weasel. This is about as intelligent and honest as I'd expect him to be after my convo with the guy. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. You're right. He said it was gross when women do it. Do we have another closeted conservative over here? He said he doesn't mind when gay guys whistle at him down the street, but when women make comments, he says he finds it disgusting. Maybe he's being more honest than we think. More honest than he thinks. We stan a gay king. No, we don't.
Cool.
Right.
You may think I'm attractive.
Right.
That's fine. That's cool. I get it.
I think women will say the same thing as long as you're not like trying to be predatory. And I've seen it because I go to clubs with my friends who are girls, and I have to tell the men to literally leave them alone because they keep going and they're predatory and they're literally scouting out for women that are drunk or whatever, not even drunk. She could say no 1,000 times and they're still gonna bother her. But the minute that I say something, they stop.
Women are not as strong as men and they get targeted. Sure, yes, that is a privilege that men have over women, but that doesn't mean that men have privilege because of that one situation. Men...
What? This is what happens when you can't refute the arguments, but you don't like the conclusion the arguments naturally lead to, you know? He can't refute the arguments that lead up to the conclusion, but the conclusion isn't something he wants to accept, so he's like, okay, all right, it may be true that we have privilege over women here, but that doesn't mean we have privilege over women. It's like, all right, well...
commit suicide way more than women do.
Because if we're going to go that route, trans men commit suicide twice the rate.
But that's not
I think what's important here is to distinguish.
Given the conservatives the out, they want to talk about suicide rates.
That women who get preyed on, you know, there's situations where this happens, right? Like no one's going to deny that. But we're also just trying to say that it's not like a one-sided coin here, where there's no like men are just, you know, we just have it good and we can do whatever we want.
I do not believe
we can't even be the next Supreme Court justice because you know it's like.
But you know, again, I live as a man, so I see the difference.
Yeah.
When I said I have privilege and I walk into a room, of course. But then there's other things that are expected of me now as a man that I would never knew were expected.
So
of
would
me.
you guys agree that there's such thing as female privilege?
Oh, sure, 100%.
My wife.
Maybe the best way to get into these discussions, because conservatives will never cede the point that male privilege as a broad category exists, is to rather say that there are ways in which men and women are treated unfairly by society, and we should work to amend that unfairness so that everyone has the freedom to live the lives they want to. That language probably opens you up to like the best framing that you can get for these kinds of conversations. And that way it doesn't turn into a pissing contest over, like, who has it worse or whatever. Because even if there is an answer to that, you're just never actually gonna... Were they lovers? I'll free you. Farewell.
Has privilege because she has me.
That's right.
So she don't have to worry about her
Right
safety
on.
because I'm there.
I don't believe that as a man, it's like, you know, there's marketing for women-owned brands. I can't, like I said, I can't be the next Supreme Court justice. Like, it's, women are very much more empowered today, which I think is, I don't have no problem with it. I mean, like, good for you. But I think that the man I probably have privilege because I'm, you know, 6 foot 210. Like, no one's picking on me when I walk down the street. You know, I used to live in Chicago, and I used to walk home all the time at night, but like, was that smart? Probably not, but I felt a little safe because, you know, I'm not 5 foot 100 pounds. I'm Max, I'm 29, and I'm a conservative man. In today's society, women and men can be whatever they want and be as successful or as strong or as big of a leader as they choose. So I'm just wondering, in a society that is so seemingly level, more level than ever before, why are we transitioning to different genders to find, and what are we looking for?
What?
Biology determines gender.
Okay, I just want to say there's nothing inherently wrong with that question if it's an actual question and not a leading one. I know that it is a leading one because I've heard conservatives talk before. I'm not stupid. But if it's an actual question, like he genuinely doesn't get it, then there's the potential for good engagement there. I would be very surprised if that turned out to be the case, though.
So, sex and gender, people try to argue that they're different, but sex and gender actually go hand to hand. And our biology, being a man, comes down to every fiber within our body. So whether that be DNA, chromosomes, testosterone levels, bone density, there's a whole bunch of different factors that go into it, and it all has to do with biology.
So biology, I 100% believe in biology. Today we don't.
So that is objectively incorrect, and you can listen to any biologist, and that is just not true. So the way he said every fiber of our being is just not true. If you take a look at a muscle cell or a bone cell, there's not a male or a female bone cell. There's not a male or a female muscle cell. What we're talking about is different distributions of certain chemicals in the body that men and women tend to have. You know, on average, men have greater bone density than women. But there are women who will have just naturally, because we all fit kind of on a, you know, a normal distribution, have higher bone density than the average man. It's not super common, but it can happen. It's not like that woman has male bone cells. She just fits in a non-standard distribution of a female range of potential bone densities. Framing it as though sex is written like bit by bit, cell by cell, atom by atom in our DNA is incredibly stupid and unscientific. It's just not true. Or to put it another way, okay? A cis woman on average has lower bone density than a cis man, but if that cis woman were a trans man and they transitioned and they took hormones and their bone density increased, that increased bone density would not be any meaningfully different from the male bone density that a cis guy would have. Does that make sense? There's not some inherent characteristic that's being left out there. There's not some fundamental difference. It's all about that essentialism. It's that insistence that always the difference has to be this, like, it has to be unchanging. But it's just not true. After all, when human beings are just a zygote, when we're just a little zygote, like a little miniature, not even a baby down there, when we're just a zygote, like, we don't have a sex. The sex that we turn out to be depends on the hormone washes that we receive in the womb. That's why the penis and the vagina are biologically analogous. You know, the ovaries and the testes, the clitoris and the head of the penis. If you like math all of it out, like that's the reason why male humans have nipples. You know, all of it tracks. We are the same thing. We just experience different hormone washes, different levels of chemical engagement. Does that make sense? Does everyone in chat understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference, you know? Obviously, that doesn't mean there are no differences. It only means that these differences aren't some fundamental, categorical, like, existential thing. They're just, like, differences, you know?
We talk about biology being a social construct. I disagree with that as a transgender person. I was born biologically female. I always acknowledge that, and today I live as a male. Now, that being said, sex and gender, they are trying to separate those things. Gender can be, I've chosen my gender. As
Wait, what do you mean they are? You're a trans man.
Probably understand that I used to be a female. Now, many people do, like you just said, believe that sex and gender are one thing and you can never change those. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm trying to show the world that this is how I feel by presenting the outside. But I think denying biology is...
This is what I mean by pick-me behavior. Buck Angel right now is acting as though other people are trying to separate gender and sex. He is too. He can't get around that. There's no getting around that. He absolutely is currently doing that right now. Yeah. If he says, I am a man, and then he's like, I'm a biological female, but I'm a man, then yeah, you're distinguishing gender and sex. You can't, you can't get around that. Who's denying biology? Nobody. As always, every time, trans people never stand up and say, hey, biology isn't real. Transphobes, or pick-me's, stand up and go, these other people are denying biology. Every time, no trans person brings this up. It doesn't happen. It's always imposed from the outside. Or from fucking sleeper agents like Buck.
Where we get into a lot of problems.
So if you want to be, you know, seen as a man, then like,
right on.
Who are you to, I don't care. I mean, you do you.
People reversing emotes and
but I think like we get, it becomes a slippery slope. It's like, how are we going to deny basic human facts? Like, there's two genders.
I think that causes problems, and it causes problems for me.
Yeah.
Because the minute I start denying your biology, now you feel attacked by me. Right. And I don't want you to feel attacked by me. I never want you to feel, I want to be a part of, if that makes sense. You don't have to agree with my choice of how I live my life, but all I ask for is respect.
What do you have on your driver license and your birth certificate?
Right,
do you change it to male, or do you change it to...
So that being said, I transitioned to live as a man 29 years ago. So that was way before you see any of this stuff, and I had to acknowledge my biology, right? That being said, my
everyone
license,
acknowledges their biology.
It has to say male. Can you imagine if I showed up at the airport, they're like, female? Dude, there's something going on here. But I actually got my birth certificate changed to male. I was the first person to do that here in Los Angeles. But that being said, I kind of think that it might have been a mistake to do that now, looking forward today, because I never thought we would be having this conversation.
I'm glad you said that, because I love that people can express themselves. We live in America. It doesn't matter what I believe, what my religion is. I love that people can live their best life. I'll never, ever in my life protest or try to go against a person who wants to identify. The problem is when you begin to try to change language and you begin to try to change reality, and then...
So wait. I support your right to protest, but not to change language? Wait, hold on. Isn't changing... First of all, language changes on its own all the time. Second of all, changing the way we define and term things is pretty essential to protest, no? I mean, there are a lot of choice words people used to have for people like Brandon Tatum over here that I'm sure he would agree it's best we excise. Did they not have a right to do that? No, you can't call them a black man. We have a term for that already. It's the N-word. Why are you trying to change reality? Like, what? No! It's like, why?
Therefore, it changes on the children, and all of that becomes problematic. If a person says, okay, I acknowledge I'm born as a man or a woman, but I want to identify as this, cool, I respect that. And even if I didn't want to see it that way, and some people may be a little more ambiguous, I wouldn't never disrespect you. I'll call you by your name.
That's right.
Whatever name that you want to be associated with, I'll do that. And I think if everybody in the country can get on that same page, I think we'll see less division.
I've noticed in a lot of the trans individuals that I've met, the older generation who had it a lot harder in society to be accepted is a lot more willing to have the conversation.
We didn't have social media. I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have computers when I transitioned. This is how you build bridges. I'm Buck. I'm 59 years old, and I'm a trans man. Because I'm an elder trans man now, and there's a much newer generation, there's a definite space where I have a different way of being than the younger generation, and why I tend to call myself a transsexual man. And I believe in biology, I believe in binary, so it really...
See, so he doesn't respect the existence of non-binary people, for one. For two, again, nobody denies biology. Again, this is the same shit J.K. Rowling does. Nobody denies biology. Nobody denies biology. Nobody denies biology. Nobody denies biology. Nobody does. Nobody does. Nobody denies biology. Why do you think people medically transition? Nobody denies biology. It's just not happening. Biology is often more complicated than these people think it is. Like that guy who was pretending that he understood how biology works before, but that doesn't mean you're denying biology. He is. Hey, get back here. Hey. 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 Doesn't calling himself a transsexual kind of imply he can change his sex? Yeah, if you want to be, like, cunty about it, then yes, the language that he uses does imply that. And, you know, I don't think that you can change your sex, folks. I think you can change sexual attributes. Oftentimes, you can change so many of them that I'd say you're sexually closer to the other sex than you were the one you were born at. But if we're to use Buck Angel tier like logic here, then I would say the term transsexual would be a denial of biology from his perspective. Does that make sense?
It does not necessarily align with a new thought process that is happening with the newer generation.
Pick me, pick me, pick me,
So I love this question.
Pick me. Pick me!
With trans folks, biology does change. Our bone density does change. Our muscle structure does change. Our testosterone levels do change. So biology.
Will you ever look at this guy and think, ah, trans man? Would you ever, in a million years, would you ever look at this dude like at the bar or something and go like, ah, yes, biological female? You'd be insane. They would instantly, if you ever claimed that, the police would show up and you would be institutionalized. You would be in a straitjacket for the rest of your life. Pardon me for deferring to intuition here, but like, are there biological changes? Obviously. What kind of moron would you have to believe to not trust the evidence of your own eyes?
Logically, we do change. Anatomically, now that's where surgeries come into play. So when we're talking about biology,
yeah, trans dudes tend to be like more masculine than cis dudes.
That can't be changed. Our biology absolutely and concretely changes.
Not the DNA.
But our biology.
What DNA? Well,
yeah, DNA is not going to change for anyone.
So you acknowledge there's a biological difference between males and females because some people on the other side with...
Nobody says there's no biological difference between males and females. God, I wish I could show up to one of these so I could just be like, nobody says that. Nobody says that. Who? Where is that person? Go on Jubilee. Yeah, I've tried. What part of DNA would you even have to look at to determine the sex of the DNA? When we look at like the sex of like long dead corpses, we don't take DNA samples, do we? Don't we usually like look at bone structure or something? I don't actually know how that's done. How do you determine sex through DNA? Yeah, like the pelvic hip bone or whatever. It's not perfect to tell either, yeah. That's because there's no more DNA? Bosch, how do you not know this? Sucked on left, don't be mean. I know so many things. I can't know all things. Bosch is wrong about how sex is determined. Wait, then just tell me, you cunts! Tristan Opinion, STO, you're both gonna act like that? You're just gonna be like, how could Vosh not know this? Vosh is wrong on that. Just tell me, what the fuck? Jesus! They did say? Well, then at me. Viable, they can sell sex by the X and Y chromosome? But, okay, I know they can do that. Do they generally do that, though? Okay, now people in chat are just fucking spamming right now. Hold on. Just letting chat and Vosh know that Vosh wrong about the whole sex determinism. Sex is determined not by hormone wash, by the combination of the X and Y sex chromosome that a baby receives the moment the sperm meets the egg. This is an immediate thing that cannot be changed past the point of conception. Not to say Vosh's broader points are... Okay, sorry, Comrade Rotary, you're right. I should be more specific, okay? The chromosome is determined right then, but everything fucking else is the hormone washes, right? Like, the chromosome, like, sets into place some of the pieces, but those hormone washes are what determine, like, an overwhelming majority of the sexual differences between a male and a female fetus. Like, if anything, isn't it like the chromosomes are basically just like the body, like, it's basically like the body getting the designation of which hormone washes it's going to get, right? Like, it's like, okay, you have an XX chromosome or an XY chromosome, like, and then, like, they wave the flag to determine, like, the wave of hormones they're going to get. But if you get, like, an XY chromosomes, but then the XX hormone washes, like, you're going to come out pretty fucking bio-female, right? This shit's complicated, okay?
Say there's no difference, like a female, like I could look like a girl, not having testosterone, but I'm still a male.
STL. That's
some
badass.
people are male, some people are female, chromosomally. But when we start to take testosterone, our bodies do biologically change.
But what about trans men who don't take testosterone?
Then their bodies don't biologically change.
That means then they're biologically still female, right?
Well, then,
wait,
and
Buck.
gender in itself is something we get to choose. Okay?
Buck.
Just like you said.
Well, in your life, you get to choose. Not you don't get to choose it for the world, but you get to choose.
No, I get to
That's
choose
right.
my gender because I've been on testosterone for 10 years.
Oh, no.
Okay, going on 11 years.
But there's some anatomy that will never change.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you still have ovaries. You still have
Yes.
the female reproductive system. You
Yes.
said that you had a child.
Yes, I've given birth. I no longer have female reproductive organs.
Right, but you had that. You will never get male productive organs.
Now, when you think about it, the male
And you'll
and
never
female
get
productive
bitches.
organs are similar, and they're nearly the same. They're different.
Right.
They're different in size.
Even if
Okay, biologically,
And they're different in
in
functionality too.
Not necessarily,
Well,
because the testes and ovaries are.
This is such a stupid... God, the sex... Okay, listen. I like the term transsexual because I think that transgender includes trans people who do not transition medically, and I think it's important to distinguish between trans people who do and do not, because I think those are meaningful categories to distinguish between, at least for clarification purposes. Not that one of them is more legitimately trans than the other, not that any one of them is valid and the other isn't. Just because, like, a trans person who's, like, NB but doesn't, like, get any medical stuff done definitely has different experiences than a trans person who undergoes, like, years and years of hormone therapy. I think it's reasonable to believe that there's some, like, value in having that distinction, like, linguistically. So I'm okay with the terms transgender and transsexual being used, not mutually exclusively, but, like, you know, in tandem when necessary, you know? Like, I think most trans people are both transgender and transsexual, and then there are people who are transgender and not transsexual. And then there are some people, I assume, who are transsexual and not transgender. If you want to be real particular about it, you could make the argument that, like, cisgender women who get breast reduction surgery are, in a sense, a kind of transsexual who are not transgender, or femboys on HRT, which is a real thing, and God bless them, are transsexual but not transgender. Does that make any sense? Because in those cases, you're getting, like, medical procedures that put you closer in terms of sexual characteristics to, like, the other side, but your gender remains the same, you know? God bless them. You're all valid. Phenomenal, okay? But, like, I understand that distinction, but if we're talking, like, trans issues, the transsexual stuff is, like, basically irrelevant, you know? Like, there's just no point in harping on and on and on about it. Like, oh, well, I'm real trans man because I've changed my sex for 10 years. Like, okay, that's not the point here. The point is about gender, you know? Okay, good. We're able to bait out one at a time. Oh my god! They fucking teleport. Holy shit. Yes. Phenomenal. Well. Nice. Yeah, those scions, man. Those goddamn grafters. Is there a phone ringing? No, sorry. One of the enemies rings a bell.
Are very much similar. One is an egg. One is a fertilizer.
But
and
we
that's
can
the
never.
difference.
But I never can produce sperm.
You're
Call me
absolutely
fertilizer,
right. You're
because
absolutely
I'd be
right.
shitting on these
They can never
fools.
produce ova.
And you guys are saying that gender is like a social construct. Is that what you're saying too? That you could change it? But also, if you want to be technical about it, age is a social construct. Your ethnicity and race is a social construct.
Oh, what? Yes, ethnicity and race is 100%. Everyone agrees on that. Age? Age, what an age means is a biological construct. Age tracks an empirical, chronological marker. If this guy thinks age is a social construct, then whew. I hope everyone's doing okay in the household. Yeah, we found the right libertarian, folks. He looks like one, too. Yeah, no. So, if you want to get, like, super specific about it and, like, real philosophical, basically all categories are a social construct in some form or another. But in a much more practical and useful sense, terms like race, ethnicity, and gender refer to, like, completely arbitrary social lines that have changed many times throughout society. Whereas when we talk about age, we talk about the passage of time. And to our knowledge, the only thing that affects the passage of time is gravitational relativity. And since all humans in history have been born and have died on Earth, that's pretty much a constant that we can measure down to like a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a fraction. And I think it's safe to say that a person's age is pretty much, you know, figured out. Now, you could argue that age is a social construct in the sense that some cultures start your age from conception and some start from birth. Like, there have been cultures where you're 1 year old when you come out of the womb because they round up from then. Like you've lived 1 year in the womb, you know? Like, you could make that argument if you wanted to. That is a social construct. But in terms of the literal amount of time that has passed since birth, that's pretty much set.
And I'm Hispanic. I can't say I'm Chinese because I like Chinese food. I could bleach my skin all I want. I could wear Chinese clothes.
No, race is not. How is ethnicity going to be a construct?
Social construct doesn't mean arbitrary. Those aren't the same things. Because something is a social construct doesn't mean that it like doesn't mean anything at all. Like, baseball is a social construct, but that doesn't mean you could be like, huh, so if it's a social construct, does that mean that my penis is baseball? Like, I gotta say, doing the arguments and these scions, man, please. Oh, thank God. Woo.
There's all social constructs.
So how exactly?
If you look up, is race a social construct? Ethnicity a social construct? Is time a social construct? Right. Everything's a social construct if you want to think about it that way. But we have.
Wow, this guy's actually a fucking retard. This is like the epitome of Dunning-Kruger. He's like, huh, well, if one thing's a social construct, therefore everything's a social construct. And it's like, no, it's not. That's not what that means, you fucking idiot. What the fuck are you talking about? If one thing is a social construct, that means that everything doesn't mean anything. Like, all right, yeah. I need to set up a media pause hotkey. I'll get on it.
Set truths, then we can't change those truths. If you want to say you're trans man, that means you're a biological female that thinks that you're a male.
I am a biological male. I'm an anatomically.
See, he's going to have different version of it than,
right.
And I think it's really important that you understand we're all going to have
it's
different
anatomic,
views.
okay?
Yeah.
Because biologically, I have shifted, okay? Trans meaning going from one to the next.
Biologically and all these things, I know that there's importance for you guys, but meeting me or seeing me, you would never know. So why is it important?
Well, no, because
I'm just
say
curious.
if I was a woman, just say if I was a woman and I wanted to date you, what are you going to tell me?
I would tell you that I'm trans.
No, I'm saying you can't tell me that you're a man.
I mean, I'm still a man.
No, but you got to tell me.
man.
You got to tell me that you were born a woman. You have to.
I mean, I don't.
No, you just say I'm a trans man. That's normally sufficient. Most people understand. You have to. You have to tell them. Like, no, not really. It's not strictly necessary. You can if you want to. Don't have to. Two of you. Hold on. By the way, cancel me if you like. Cancel me for my takes or whatever. If you're trans, okay, let's say you're a trans woman because bottom surgery for women has come along farther than bottom surgery for men at the moment, so it's just more of a convenient hypothetical. Holy shit. Let's say you're a trans woman and you're post-op and you are just unclockable. Like, head to toe, naked, clothed, whatever, okay? I don't think you have any obligation to tell any of the people you date. You should tell them that, you should tell them you're infertile, I guess. Because that's true. Yeah, like if you're a gigapassoid, to use the 4chan terminology, thank you. I don't think you have any obligation whatsoever to do so. At that point, like, I feel like you have an obligation to tell your partner stuff that is relevant to them and their experiences with you, you know? And past that, like, I don't really think so. I guess if people want to, like, really harp in on this, you could go like, okay, well, what if you're a serial murderer in the past? That doesn't affect them, but you should still tell them, right? Like, I guess at the end of the day, I just don't understand the importance unless you think there's some essential category there. If a partner asks if you're trans, well, I guess generally you should be honest. I'm not advocating dishonesty, only that I don't think it's information that needs to be offered, like, no matter what, categorically. You know? Unless you mean genitally passing. I mean, okay, if If you're dating a chick and she is a penis, do you need her to tell you she's trans? No. Yes, I meant like with bottom surgery as well. I'm just talking about like the broad. Yeah, I don't know. I think as a general rule, it's like morally good to be forthcoming with your partners. I just don't think that it's morally wrong to not say if it's not like prompted or whatever. It feels like you shouldn't date people who would judge you for that if they found out. Oh, I totally agree. Okay, but imagine a future society, if you will. Imagine a future society where, like, transition medicine is, like, fucking magic compared to what it is now. Like, we're talking everything. Fully functional sex hormones, chromosomes, like, everything, right? Like full on, like, you get 6 months of, like, surgical and pharmaceutical assistance, and then kablamo. You're now the ultimate gigapassoid, you know, like... Whatever, not impossible. I don't know how they do it, but like, sure, whatever. Let's say they do that, okay? If that's the case, should trans people be like considered obligated to tell their partners that they were born like a different sex? At that point, that just seems kind of dumb and arbitrary. Like, why? Like what? Like that just seems. Yeah, I have no idea why that would be necessary at all. Like, it doesn't seem pertinent in the slightest, you know. Maybe you should. Like maybe you'd want to like find out what their values are, but... Is it transphobic to not want to date a trans person who's had bottom surgery? Okay, this is a really complicated subject, alright? Look, first of all, I do not think that genital preferences are inherently transphobic, okay? If you think a trans girl is boppin', and you look at her, and she's boppin', okay? But she has a penis, and you're just not that into dick, I don't think it's transphobic to go like, oh, I'm sorry, you're boppin', but I'm not that into dick. I mean, you know, be nice about it. Like, don't be an asshole. But, you know, I don't think that's inherently bad. Now, fuck, poison, I was trying to avoid that. So, that's one, okay? Now, if bottom surgery has taken place, okay, and you find out that a person is trans, like, you're with a chick, and she's hot as fuck, and she's got a gigantic, steaming pussy, as everyone likes, you know? And, like, it's great. And she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm trans. And you feel put off by that. I don't think it makes you a bad person, because this is an experience that a lot of people are kind of culturally preconditioned to be wary about, you know? But I would ask, what about it, like, objectively, like, empirically, what about this is different, you know? So, generally speaking, like, neo-pussies, neo-vaginas need, like, more lubrication, like, artificially, like, with lube or whatever. And obviously there's the infertility. But that's the case for cis women as well. So, you know, you could just disclose those things. In terms of, like, just your appeal, like, that person's appeal to you, what's the difference? To me, the difference is kind of intuitive, right? Like, I think that's the case for a lot of people. A lot of people just have kind of a general aversion to the idea of, like, what they consider to be a sort of artificial body part as opposed to a, quote, real body part. But that's also pretty arbitrary too, right? Like, if a person has had reconstructive surgery to, like, fix, say, for just the sake of example, totally random, their earlobes, and you looked at their earlobes and they look totally normal, and you were like, oh yeah, I got these reconstructed. They didn't used to be like that, but now they're like this, you know? I don't think most people would be that put off by that. Like, I think most people would look at that and go like, okay. Like, alright, like, totally fine. I don't think people would be sort of innately put off by that. Same with nose jobs as well. It is true that we have kind of an innate discomfort around plastic surgery as a concept, which I do think is sort of weird and problematic. But there's no denying that the aversion towards, like, neo-pussies is greater than the aversion to, say, breast implants. You know, there's definitely a stronger arbitrary bias. Holy fucking Christ! In that case. And I guess the only thing that I would ask, the only thing that I would, like, ask you to do under those circumstances is to be introspective about why you feel that way. Does that make any sense? Like, I would only ask, like, if you feel a kind of, like, innate aversion to the idea of fucking, like, a trans girl who's had bottom surgery, who's bopping, who looks phenomenal, you know, but, like, there's this aversion, I would say, like, first of all, don't be shitty about it, of course. And then second of all, you know, maybe reflect on why you feel that way, because I think that there might be like unexamined biases in there. I hope that all those answers were sufficient because we've paused for long enough.
Well, because if I go down, if I see you in your pants, I'm going to see something different, and that will be troubling to me if I had an expectation.
But again, this is like leading off the topic, but I mean, to answer your question, if you must know, I do tell the person that I'm talking to or interested that I'm transgender. I don't think that you need it to, you know, you don't need a penis to be a man. And I know that you may disagree, which is fine, like I get it, but I don't want one.
Now, I have a question for all of you. Do your penises make you men?
Yes, biologically.
Okay. God damn it. 1 second. Ow. Okay, hold on. Fucking... You blame Vermin for this one. Is it weird that I greatly prefer women with penises? Okay, again, I can get flack for this, but, you know, chasers are a problem a lot of trans people experience. My answer is no. I don't think so. If there are people who prefer trans women with vaginas, and I don't think that's, like, biased or bigoted, then why would I feel the same about... Why would I feel that way about the opposite? The only thing that I'd have to ask is to not be, like, really fucking weird about it. You also have to understand that, like, for a lot of women with penises, their penis is something they're, like... Not to say they're unhappy with it necessarily, but it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a sensitive topic for a trans woman than a vagina would be for a cis woman. So keep that in mind and don't be weird about that with them. Okay, hold on. But I don't think it's inherently bigoted, you know? Define being weird about it. I mean, I don't think you should make people feel uncomfortable or like they're being fetishized or whatever. If you're forthcoming, I guess, listen, trans women often are at best tolerant about their dicks and at worst actively dysphoric about them. And in that environment, if you're like flirting with trans women and you're being like super fucking fixated on the dick, I think that can make them feel pretty like dehumanized, so you probably shouldn't do that. Now, there are trans women who love having dicks. I've hooked up with at least one, you know, I haven't asked every trans woman I've ever been with, but at least one trans woman who I've been with was just full on okay with the whole thing. And like in that, like with people like that, with chicks like that or whatever, like I guess you could just say like whatever. You could treat them and their penises the same way that you could treat like cis women and their vaginas generally in terms of being like nonchalant and comfortable and everything. But it really is like a case by case thing. Yes, don't call them a fuda. Don't call them a she-male. Don't. Okay, you can say you like girl cock, but only after you know them and you've gotten the vibe that they're okay with that. That one's fine. And also, some particularly degenerate trans women will also be okay with the term fuda, but that one you better wait for them to bring up. She-male, I don't think anyone's going to be okay with that, okay? Yeah, sorry, this is my guide. Wow, Vermin canceled. Also, I sent you the money. Okay.
Like, no, that is that what makes you?
Well, I said being a man's ingrained within every part of your body, so our cells are...
Right,
our
but
penis too,
if you had to look at the difference between us and between you, now would that difference be the lack of a penis?
If we were naked.
Okay,
I mean,
so if we're gonna minimize being a man to that particular anatomy,
we didn't minimize.
No. I'm asking the question. Okay, if we minimize it, because this is where we're going, is anatomy, right? Because that's where we've gotten.
Basic biology.
Okay, so if we get there, so do your penises make you more men than us?
It's part of
it's
what
not
does.
making more or less. It's we're a biologically man. You're not a biological man.
It's not a spectrum, so it's not a question that we can answer, because you're saying on the spectrum, would this make us more of a man than you? But no, it's because we are a man and you guys aren't.
Well, we're different.
So we're not men.
We're
is exactly what you just said.
Well, of course they don't think that they're...
You guys are appropriating the gender, and you are living as a man, but biologically you are not a man. So to me, it's not, you can't say, okay, well, does that make us more?
We found it, the conservative who has a problem with appropriation.
Man, that's not even a question to ask, because you're not a biological man. When it comes down to asking questions that make me start to change what the truth is and what the truth isn't, putting it on a spectrum when it's an objective truth, That's where I draw the line.
What's the biggest problem with what he said? It doesn't make what you feel any different. The biological truth is the truth, and why can't that be the truth? And you also say, but I feel like on the inside that I'm a man and I'm going to present that way.
The argument is that people try to invalidate who we are with that. I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, but a lot of society in the world
present company excluded.
Well, biologically, you're female. What hurts trans people that people don't realize what they're doing is it's very harmful. You got to be aware of what you're saying and what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, 100%. I would, and that's why I think we all agree. We would never try to offend you or anything like that. To be honest, if I saw any one of you in the streets, I don't care. It's not going to bother me that you want to.
Right.
I would know unless I pulled your pants down or something.
Right.
Why? Do you feel like you have to present the way you do?
Wait, didn't he earlier say he wouldn't think they were men?
A man without having facial hair.
I mean, yeah.
Because you feel like you're a man.
I'm in the early stages of testosterone. I haven't hit 1 year yet. But personally for me, I crave, having a full-on beard like these fine gentlemen and you guys all like, I crave it,
There's literally more facial hair on the trans side than there is on the cis side. Like, Buck Angel probably looks like the most masculine dude here. Like, then Tatum next, I guess, if you want to, like, math it out or whatever. I don't know. You agree with that bigger? Okay, wait, how old is this? Okay, so to me, like, this person, I don't know their name because I'm playing Elden Ring, so I'm only, like, listening, basically, and I only see it out of the corner of my eye. This person right here doesn't look like a chick to me. He looks like a young guy. Like, I just look at this guy and say, like think young guy, like a kid, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. That's just, like, I guess, I don't know. If I saw him, I would just think, like, on the street or whatever, I'd just think, like, oh, it's like a high school guy or whatever. I don't know. Just once I was a high school guy.
But I do believe not having like this little small peach fuzz I have going on, it does make me feel more dysphoric. It makes me feel like, oh, this is how I presented before transitioning.
Do you feel like it's something that has gone wrong at birth? Like, you're born and you say, well, genetics and evolution says this. Why do I feel like this?
Yeah, I mean,
I
think questioning it was something that I always wondered, because sometimes when people say, like, oh, like, it was a choice, which I hear a lot on the other side all the time, like, it was a choice. I was legit born this way. Like, I could remember from, I think, 4 or 5 years old where, like, I didn't feel like a girl, you know what I mean? And I can't tell you why that happened. It was just my path in this
Tempest,
life.
I get that.
And it's something that I honored, and, it was really hard for me to continue living, especially when puberty hit. Like, time of month comes in, obviously, anatomy changes, like, and that was the biggest thing for me, where I knew that, like, okay, I can't do this. It's like you're not in your own home.
Children should be allowed to transition.
Oh,
I was going to say, I find it very interesting that you and I are the only ones that stepped up, especially since we're younger. And
you should allow children to feel what they feel, because
this is about to turn into a shit show.
I felt the way that I felt for as long as I
Get
can
ready.
remember, and it's something that I cannot deny.
Yeah.
Although my mother is supportive, when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to wear boys' clothes because that wasn't right. Now I know we're talking about transitioning. It doesn't always have to be hormones. It's like transitioning in society, so being able to dress more masculine. Yeah. I did when I was younger, but as I got into middle school, kids change, people are mean, so I dressed how I would in society, so I dressed like a girl, whatever, but I think that children should be allowed to express themselves in whatever way makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah. Kids are struggling to be who they are, and there's more rates of suicide for trans individuals because they're like, there's literally
I would never look at him and think like girl, not in a million years.
From being who they are, and that's not right. That's not right.
Okay, so I work with children. This is where I have like the biggest problem with the trans stuff, is with the children.
All right, get ready. All right, get your bingo cards out, okay? We have child grooming. We have no children can ever consent to surgeries because they don't know anything about how medical procedures work. We have accusations that people are advocating for like bottom surgery. Yeah, get your goddamn scorecards out, okay? We've heard all these ones before.
Because people, like I'm sure you guys would agree, you want to inject them with the hormones to stop their puberty, their normal puberty. They haven't even developed the prefrontal cortex yet, and you want to stop their natural puberty from occurring to affirm their gender.
All right, let's... Let's go over these points point by point, because I've done a fair amount of research on these issues, so I feel like I might as well get some use out of it. Okay. So right off the bat, this argument is pretty stupid. The prefrontal cortex doesn't finish developing until into your 20s. People get surgeries before then. People get cosmetic surgeries before then. Like what, people don't get anything permanent done until they're like 25? Like, no, don't be ridiculous. And for medical purposes as well, you know, when I was in high school, I got a cosmetic surgery. It's true. It's actually, you guys want to know the honest to God truth? Okay. My flawless Herculean body was marred by a single physical defect. I had a rather large mole down by my inner thigh, like near my crotch. Not super aesthetic, so I just got that removed. Bam. Surgery. Cosmetic surgery done. Kablamo. I was like 15 or whatever. Easy as. Sake got plastic surgery at 16, apparently. Easy as. Yeah, I'm not natty, sorry. Now, obviously, these are, thanks, Galley. Now, obviously, these are relatively, at least in my case, a relatively minor thing compared to, like, what people think of when they think of trans surgeries. That being said, right now, like, I'm sorry, okay? We have evidence for two things. We have evidence for harm done by young people taking puberty blockers, and we have evidence of harm done from people being forced not to take puberty blockers and thus experiencing a puberty they didn't want and having to deal with that, which is much harder down the line. And as of the moment, the evidence in favor of the latter being more difficult to deal with and more harmful is very, very strong. Puberty blockers are reversible. They're safe. They've been used since, I think, at least the 1980s to address cis children who have like a hyperactive puberty disorder. Like they get too much puberty juice or whatever. I don't really know the details. What's the name of that condition? If SDL is still in chat, he probably knows. Hyperthyroidism? Is it hyperthyroidism? Precocious puberty. That's what I'm talking about. Precocious puberty. Like if a kid gets puberty at like 6 or something, it's like too early. Their body can't take it. They explode.
And then later on they regret it. I think that's not a good thing.
See,
wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
They haven't even developed the prefrontal cortex yet, and you want to stop their natural puberty from occurring to affirm their gender, and then later on they regret it. I think that's not a good thing.
See that?
There's just not evidence of that. Like, I'm sure it's happened. The idea of like taking puberty blockers and then like they regret waiting a few extra years for their puberty to come in, like that's just not it's just not a social problem that seems to exist, you know. I think from the data that we have, isn't it something like 99% of young people who get on puberty blockers then end up going on to fully transition? It's not as though doctors are handing out puberty blockers to literally anyone who asks, you know? Like, usually by the time a young person secures puberty blockers, it's because pediatric psychiatrists have done a ton of eval with them, and they're like, yeah, okay, this kid should definitely not go and experience a regular puberty. Like, they should definitely get puberty blockers, you know? And almost always that ends up being the case. And for the small group of people who do end up just getting off puberty blockers and experiencing regular puberty anyway, like, it's fine. It's just, like, whatever.
That's why this is a loaded question, because transition can mean many things for children. Now, I totally, as a transsexual person, disagree with giving children hormone blockers, medication, surgery. But what I do agree with is socially transitioning, which means why? Because I did that. Okay, and I did that in the 60s and 70s. My parents dressed me like Buck. I was a boy. You know, I didn't have any problems because I just lived, we used to call it a tomboy, right? So that was totally, and I went through puberty and I did all the things. I do not believe children can make those choices, and I do not believe it's okay and ethical for a parent to make those choices for a child. But I do believe
the child makes those choices,
children.
not the parent.
I had it, 100% it's there. But to give medication to a child is so unethical to me.
Wait,
You're exactly what you said. You're stunting brain growth. You're stunting all of these things.
Wait, giving medication to a child? Sorry, Timmy. We know you have diabetes, but what? The parent, and also repeating the Republican logic that the parent makes the decision for the kid to get on puberty blockers. Is there any evidence anywhere at any point in time from any parent going like, all right, kid, I've decided you're trans and you're going to go on puberty blockers? Where the fuck is that happening? Usually the kid brings it up and the parent is terrified and spends years fretting over it, and like doctors get involved, and it's a whole goddamn thing. And what brain growth is being stunted? I have not seen any evidence at all that I have not seen any evidence at all that there was like long-term harm done to the intelligence of people because they've taken puberty blockers. I think there was a study which showed that there was a recession of IQ done when children with precocious puberty took IQ blockers, but I think that was for a more specific reason. Okay, so I think, as I understand it correctly, when children with precocious puberty back in the, sorry, not IQ blockers, hormone blockers, when children with precocious puberty back in like the 1980s and 1990s would get on hormone blockers to prevent them from getting puberty too early, it would lead to a brief recession of their IQ against the mean because their average IQ was higher than their classmates at the time they were prescribed it. And I think the implication was that the increased brain activity they had was a product of the precocious puberty that was causing other problems, but causing rapid early development. And the hormone blockers led to a recession there relative to their previous IQ tests. But though they all evened out at the end. Did anyone listen to what I said? Okay, fine, whatever, fine. Okay, fine. It was a regression to the mean, not that it made them stupid long term.
I don't have enough research on it. So I'm in agreement with transitioning medically for children is not okay for me, but I do believe in a social space.
When you say a social transition, it's interesting to me because we can't control what happens in a social situation.
That's right.
So to me, and we talk about suicide rates among young trans people, this whole ideology is telling people to derive their value off of what somebody else is saying about them or what somebody else
What?
affirms to them. So we say that, you know, society is the problem and we're not allowing people to be who they are, and that's why they're committing suicide. But maybe it has to do with the messaging that we're sending to these kids, that you derive your value from if somebody uses your correct pronoun, or you derive your value if this person accepts you for wearing a dress.
My homophobia is rising. Yeah, okay, so again, studies have shown that the suicidality of trans youth decreases to 1/17th of its otherwise value if just their parents accept and affirm their identity. It's as simple as that. The idea that trans and like queer people kill themselves at higher rates because their ideology means they care more about what other people say about them is the most like victim blamey shit in the fucking universe, you know? Like, oh no, it can't be because we're all denigrating you and saying that you're mentally ill and that your ideology is destructive and worthless and that your identity as a person is invalid. It can't possibly be that. It must be because you're putting too much stock in the fact that we're doing that, you know? This seems like survivorship bias to me because this guy's gay and has probably thought about suicide for a good bit of his life, judging from how hard he'd have to repress his own shit with the kind of lifestyle this guy lives and probably has lived. And something tells me that this is like his copium. You know what I mean? Fuck, I'm not going to be able to pause very easily while doing a boss.
Be who you are, but tell them to be empowered about it and not get that empowerment from somebody else.
I feel like that's really kind of inconsiderate to say that someone would take their life because what someone else says. To somebody, that is important. To somebody, I know, have friends who their family does not use the correct pronouns when they transition and they live in the same household. This person struggles with depression and anxiety. Could you imagine living in an environment like that where you're no longer validated? That's coming from your own parents.
But if you base your validation off of other people, this is a hard truth, but if your sole validation
no, you definitely have to do it. Listen,
I
could give people a shit when everyone thinks about me. I do what I want. But for everyone, that's not the case because everybody has different personalities.
Right, but that doesn't make it any. That doesn't mean that.
But it's still. But what you're not acknowledging. Listen, what you're not acknowledging though is that in that environment, it is not supported.
I'm acknowledging that. I'm just saying that we're saying that for some reason they should look for that validation from somebody else.
When you love somebody and you have a family, you want them to validate.
But you're focusing not on the individual. You're focusing on the people outside.
So this is retarded. Obviously, if you're a young kid, you are literally biologically designed to place a lot of stake in how your parent feels about you. Like, there's no argument around this, okay? when you're young, like your parents' evaluation of you is just objectively going to be a huge part of your self-identity. We're literally coded that way. You can't bootstrap your way out of that. That's biology. So that's one. For two, like, you could make this argument about literally anything. It's so funny that earlier the conservatives were crybabying over how men have higher suicide rates, and now we see how much they actually care about suicide rates, you know? It's like, oh, you know, trans youth will kill themselves less if you just respect their identity. And they're like, well, maybe you should just, like, have more self-esteem, you know? We know they don't actually care. I'll show you a real Elden Ring move.
Of that individual, I'm focusing on empowering that individual. But part of being a person is needing to be validated. You don't need to be validated ever in your life? From your family or your friends?
I get my validation from within, and then the...
Right, but if we're talking about children, okay, if we're talking... Okay, I was an 8-year-old when I found out that I wasn't biologically...
Destiny deleted all of his tweets because he got ratioed by Keffels. What did Keffels say? Vandriel, I should permanently ban you from real life. Vosh, are you not using the Hoarfrost step on purpose, or do you have any idea how cunty that comes off? Sorry, Vosh, are you not making use of your full moveset because of some sort of self-imposed challenge, or are you just, like, really bad? What are you doing? Fuck you. Keffels added Twitter support on his ass over the ban evasion. Well, what did he say to agitate? I want to victim blame Destiny, but I need to know how. Don't do it. They did it. Well, I can't start the video now, can I? It's okay, Vandriel, I love you. Damn it! Okay, it's fine. It's really tough to do this, the boss fight, and also thinking, like, oh, should I have to pause or unpause the video? Unpause.
Male, right? I was 8.
Transport
when
shit?
I found out that I wasn't the same as my brothers. Okay, and so going through that process, I attempted suicide 4 times because my mother was like, Jesus. Well, you are a girl. When you're 8 and you're 12 and you don't have anyone else that is in your space, when you don't have anyone else that lives in the same house as you to tell you you're okay, where are you supposed to go? How are you supposed to garner your own self-validation?
Wait, I'm sorry, hold on. So the thing he deleted his tweets over was Capri unprivated because Capri got quote tweeted by Ian Miles Chong, a neo-Nazi lowlife who's gotten people doxxed before. And Capri is expressing appreciation that Keffels was bullying Ian Miles Chong on Twitter. And Destiny's sage response to this might be one of the cringiest things I've ever read in my life. The DGGers in my community who think that because, like, Destiny doesn't like the woke scolds either, I'm going to, like him again or something, are the most desperate and fruitless fucking, wannabe social engineers in the fucking universe. Scroll up. And then Keffels is saying, like, this person's ban evading, etc., etc. Yeah. It's like he's two people. I genuinely just think that he's transphobic. I just think he's spiteful enough that all the trans people on Twitter who disagree with him have just made him, like, as a category opposed to them. Like, his political positions, broadly, are generally affirmative of trans people, but I think he has, like, a bias against trans people, which is super fucking weird. Because he's done and said some weird shit when it comes to trans people. Calling Chloe a pedophile because she, like, advocates for a DIY HRT or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know. Some weird... Here, let's finish the video.
If the people that are raising you don't validate who you are.
As a father, you know, my duty is to raise my children.
To be fair, Vosh, it seems like trans women have a bias against you.
Good,
I am transphobic.
Struggles with
I own it.
Which is fine. We'll have that conversation. But
I'm just kidding.
I'm going to let it play out the way I believe it should be played out. And at 18 years old, you can do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to wear dresses, that's fine. I mean, just wearing it, if you want to dress like a boy, don't make you want to be a boy. Don't mean you have to be a boy. My mom was a tomboy. And my mom had me and my brother, and she's a woman, you know, and she lives like that. But, you know, you may want to dress a little different. Maybe a boy want to do cheerleading or something like that.
Right.
But that don't mean you need to transition to something else. So I want that to play out until my child is old enough to make that
trans
decision
girls
on their
don't
own.
want to cheerlead.
Also,
They're women. They want to be women. They want to be seen as
because
women.
if you just want mommy and daddy to acquiesce to everything you want, that's not reality. You have to understand that mom and dad may not see me this way. They love me. I see myself this way, and I disagree with how they speak to me or how but I love them as well. I love, like my son, if he said that he was, and I'm a Christian and I don't believe in homosexuality. I don't.
What? That doesn't believe in it? What?
I'd never, protest you at all. If my son came to me, it would be a struggle for me to want to go to his wedding. I'm just going to be honest. But I think that my son should understand this is the way my dad feel.
Wow, great way to admit to be a phenomenal parent there. At least lie and say that you would go there to support your kid. Jesus Christ. What a piece of shit. Like, I get a lot of homophobe parents will do this, but just openly admitting it, like, yeah, you know, I would miss out on the son's, like, biggest day of his life because I'm, like, a homophobe. Like, yeah, well, great. Thank you. He'll lie about other stuff, but not this. He's very committed to this particular topic.
I love him. This is the way I feel, and we have mutual love. And that don't mean I hate you. That just mean we disagree. And I wish that same sentiment would be, and I think it's the same on this panel. Like, there's no hate in any of this.
I love Christians like him. These people are burning in hell the hottest. They're going into the deepest circle. Yeah, I don't hate you. I just politically oppose you and will do everything possible to make you want to kill yourself. But I don't hate you. I'm a good Christian.
Because I'm a trans man. Transitioning in a black neighborhood with gang members as neighbors.
Ow.
They weren't having that. So the more that my body started to look a lot like theirs, I was challenged on a regular basis. I was beaten up because someone recognized me from prior to my transition and approached me and confronted me and called me a liar and told me I was a bitch. And I, out of safety, was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they cold cocked me and I lost a front tooth.
I grew up with a positive father figure.
This is good.
I think for me it's surprising because I would believe that a woman or a person who's born as a woman who now identifies as a man didn't have a positive role model as a man.
God, he's such a fucking retard, dude. He can't even keep it quiet. He's like, I'm confused. I would expect you'd all have bad relationships with your father.
So it was very interesting. I mean, I'm being honest.
Dude, you're black. You really want to own up to that one?
Of you guys come forward.
You really want to run stereotypes
here?
here?
It's important that you say that because I do think a lot of people probably feel that way about guys like me, right? That our fathers we didn't have the right upbringing or what. My father was amazing. I grew up really like a little boy. I always felt like a little boy. My parents actually raised me, and I'm 59 years old, so that was in the 60s and the 70s when we didn't even talk about this kind of stuff. But my parents actually felt it from me. So I think that that's a misconception that people think about people like us.
Any good father pushes their child to feel self-love and to feel like they can be who they want, do what they want, and have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Like our founding fathers. And
what? That's your parents. What is my role as a parent? Well, look in the Constitution. What?
One, a pandemic in its own, and it's one that obviously I'm sure Brandon can attest to. It's so critical to have a father in the house because kids get lost when they don't have one, and having a father that's loving and strong and someone you can rely on is, the reason why, we're all comfortable with who we are.
I had several different father figures like in my life. So it wasn't, I had a dad, but then I had my grandfather and I had my uncle. It takes a village to raise a child, right? But all of those different perspectives raised me as a well-rounded human. Like, if we take the masculinity out of it, just as a human, I got to see different perspectives. And so now as a father that has given birth to a child and that child being a male, right, I'm able to raise him with those same ideals that I'm able to identify because of the father figures that I had.
I didn't have my father growing up. He was not present in my life at all. So it showed me that some men can step up, like my grandfather and my stepfather who have taken me in and showed me how to take care of myself, how to be, you know, strong and dependable. And all I've been able to do is give more love to all people that I interact with.
Right.
So it was really important for me to have those figures.
I think this is a really important thing to show people that are watching this, because a lot of times I feel like we can blame any issues in society or anything that arises on the generation that came before us. So any issues that arise in our society, it's like, there's not always a reason why it's happening. We just need to address the issue and solve it.
I grew up with all women. My parents were divorced and I lived with my mom. I had my aunts. So I was raised by women, but my dad was there sometimes, and then my stepdad took me in as his own, so I had my stepdad as a father figure.
I grew up with all women as well. My mom used to tell me I had to be your mom and your dad. So like there'd be times where I got both. Like she was super sweet with me or really strict on me, and like she taught me a lot as well. Like growing up with women, it taught me a lot of vulnerability.
No, when you were talking to, I was like, I relate to you very well. But yeah.
I'm Jacob, I'm 27 years old, and I'm a trans man. So the relation with my dad and how unsupportive he is has been a challenge for me, but it's something that I've learned to grow past. And I encourage everyone that even if you don't have a parent who is supportive, to still be authentically yourself, because your life is meant to be lived for you. And I think that choosing my happiness above all else has made my life that much better. And I wouldn't
okay, I'm paying
change anything.
attention.
Even though he wasn't supportive, I still wouldn't have him here.
Listening to all your guys' points, I would definitely say, yeah, I did have a father figure. He was in the Marines, and he has this very toxic masculinity mindset. A lot of anger built up that I can definitely tell he suppressed, in the Marines, because that's what he was taught to do. That's what the Marines are about. He always carried that with him, and I think that's what he tried to instill in me and my siblings at a very young age, which made it hard for me to be vulnerable with myself. And I just saw a lot of anger issues that were, very violent sometimes. And since coming out as trans, I feel like he's been more willing to understand me more and trying to figure out who I am as a person. And because of that, I feel like our relationship has definitely got a lot stronger since then.
I can't imagine people just come home and then try to be vulnerable after suppressing so much pain and hurt for years. So it's good to hear that he's learning and kind of evolving and opening up. That's something where you guys were talking about vulnerability, right? And it's like there's times when it's good to be hard.
I don't show emotion.
I'm always hard.
As much as I'd like.
Aw, hello.
I definitely have sensed and noticed since transitioning that being on testosterone has made me cry less, which is very interesting because I believe that before I transitioned and started taking testosterone, I feel like not being able to cry as much, it makes me I'm like, damn, I wish I could cry right now, but it's not gonna happen. Hi, I'm Gibby and I'm a trans man. Before transitioning, I guess only presented as lesbian, but since transitioning, I've been able to be more comfortable with my sexuality. I've definitely seen on dating apps and stuff, a lot of conservative men fetishizing trans individuals. And it's interesting because a lot of the time they say that they don't identify as gay or, within the community, and yet they're fetishizing my community.
So I don't know about you guys, but I always speak my mind. If I feel a certain way, I'll tell somebody, and that probably cost me a lot of relationships, but that's just how I am. So
I don't think there's anything wrong with, I know we talked about vulnerability.
Didn't this guy
I don't think there's anything wrong
directly
with
say that he has trans friends he doesn't use the correct pronouns of because it wouldn't be in line with his politics? Oh yeah, dude, you're truly a fucking pillar of spine right there. You've got so many vertebrae. Jesus Christ.
Times and places for it, knowing when it's okay to be vulnerable and being self-aware of that, and then being strong when you need to, and being sad when it's appropriate. But I certainly am not as vulnerable or not as emotional as probably I should, because it's not something that I always do.
He's crying right now.
I don't feel like I have any real issues suppressing. I just feel like I kind of get it out in other ways.
Yeah, that's great you look at it like that, because I believe for me, my personal experiences, because I was one, to transition at a very young age, and my dad being in the military, being a veteran, he would see me being vulnerable at times, and he'd be like, well, don't you want to be a man? And that would make me feel like, oh, am I not supposed to be vulnerable anymore? Now that I'm gonna transition, and it was just like very hard for me because, like I said earlier, it was hard for me to have that father figure at that time of my life.
My process of, digesting emotions is by myself, and I use that time to self-reflect. So if I'm feeling angry or if I'm, feeling really passionate about something or whatever the emotion is, sometimes I pull back and I don't show that emotion because I'm reflecting on it and trying to understand why it's there. So I think a lot of times people can think men aren't showing enough emotion, but in reality, they're just self-assessing why that emotion is there in order to see what it's trying to teach us.
All right, hold on. I disagree with this strongly, okay? Men have the emotional intelligence of caged bulls, okay? Men have the emotional intelligence of cats. Men have no emotional intelligence whatsoever. When men don't reflect on their emotions or the validity of those emotions, they just get angry and confused, okay? Men are taught that anytime anything doesn't go their way, the proper response is to be angry, not sad. But angry is always a proxy emotion. Think. Every single time you're angry, you're just responding negatively to another emotion. There's always some other thing you're actually feeling, and anger is just like the cathartic release for that feeling. But men pretend this is not the case, or at least don't know it's the case, and are just so... Like, this is one of the reasons why, like, you know the whole, like, meme about, like, guy friends who desperately need a therapist? Who will, like, anytime they get a female friend, they'll just, like, unload all their feelings onto them, and that it's, like, exhausting to deal with. It's not exclusively something guys do, but that is definitely, like, a gendered phenomena, you know? Yeah, the idea that men are silently reflecting on why they feel that way is not the case, okay? I'm pretty sure that most men have, like, caveman-level analysis when they're upset over something, you know? When they're quiet, it's just them silently, like, being angry that they can't just go and, like, charge the person who's upsetting them, you know?
Right. I think when I was female, I was much more angry. I was just reactive, angry, like, "Grr." And then as I became a man, I cry more now as a man than I ever did as a woman. And I think it's because I'm at peace with myself.
That's valid.
And so before I was just so angry about being a woman and everyone calling me she and seeing a girl and I was a fashion model. So that really just took it to a whole other level. And then once I became a man, it was like, whoa, I can actually relax. And I think I do the same thing. I self-reflect on myself. I want to be this type of man that is more vulnerable and that is more accessing my own emotions.
Thank you, everyone.
Right on. Thank you.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wait.
Can I take a picture with you? I see you a lot of times on.
By fashion model, did he mean porn star, or was he actually a fashion model before being a porn star? That was long. That could have gone a lot worse. That could have gone a lot worse. That was good. Hey, huge cred to the two young trans guys in particular, I think. The two young ones. I think they rocked the house, you know? Gibby! Yeah, I think they rocked the house. Da fellas. Yeah, da boys. Gibby and Jacob? That was the name? Okay, gotcha. Hell yeah. Okay. I was thinking in my head that if I was still on that boss before the video finished, that I would ask Tempest to include me beating the boss at the end to, like, show that I can do it. So that people who only watch my political videos don't think that I'm super bad. You know? But I beat the boss while we were watching it, so... Tempest, you wouldn't do that for me? It's rough out here, boys.